What is love? So love is a word which everybody uses, but very few people can actually define what exactly is love. And most of the mankind is precisely missing this thing which is called love. Most people, when we use the word love, they think it is love of a mother for a child, or love between two, romantic love, or love between two lovers, or the normal colloquial usage is I love you. You know, it's something which you really like somebody and you say I love you. But love is a more fundamental, more broad concept. What is this thing called love? Now, if you look deeply, there are certain things which you actually value very highly, which you love. These are experiential. These are perceptions which happen in life, which can happen, but which also happens with almost every human being. Like, for example, let's take examples. So there's a young student, and he's, let's gone for a music class. And let's say there's a wonderful teacher who is in love with his music, and he wants to share that love with a passion. Normally teachers are not like that. Teachers are more subject oriented or skill oriented. But this teacher is different. Let's say this teacher loves music. Now, I'm going to illustrate this concept of love via the example of music. The student goes there. He sits with the guru. And he's a different kind of maverick guru, let's say, for a moment. And this student sits there, and this guru makes him listen to a song. First he puts a song. So the boy hears it. He asks him, how's the song? So the boy, whatever he knows, like, how he listens normally to a song, he listens to the song. Then the guru puts the notes on the screen and tells him to focus on how the notes is going up and down. So he takes a song, let's say Ruk Jana Nahi, in an old movie from Hindi films, and he plays the song, and on the screen very clearly you can see how the notes are changing with every second, how the notes are changing while the song is being sung. And he tells him to simply focus and notice that. So this guy does that. He focuses and notices each of the notes, how they are moving. So like Ruk Jana Nahi, like then every Ruk Jana Nahi, Tu Kahin Haar Ke, Ruk Jana, 3 notes, Kahin, there are around 10 notes in the first line itself. So he can see how the sound is varying its pitch in the 10 notes. He focuses on that. Obviously, the student doesn't focus perfectly, but he does focus. Again, he tells him to be quiet. He brings him to the mood. The teacher tells him, no, slowly. He becomes silent, and they come into a kind of communion, and then tells him to see and listen to the notes carefully. The boy does that. He does that. And then the boy starts noticing the notes moving. And suddenly, something happens with him. He sees the beauty of the tune. He experiences the raga. And in that instant, he understands that there is something called a concept in music which is called raga. That raga is simply movement of the notes, and he experiences that profound love. Love. See, that word has come now. That word has come now. When you experience a certain nature, a certain concept, a certain beauty inherent in a certain field. Here, the example is music. You experience that concept of love. See? Because it is important to you. It made you feel something. You understood reality. You understood nature. This is why it is so tough for people to fall in love. Because the teacher doesn't teach properly. If the teacher is also in love, he is not able to communicate it properly to a student. And the whole mankind, most of the mankind, first of all, they don't get a teacher like this. Secondly, if the teacher is good, the teacher might not be motivated to share his music in this particular way. He's not interested in that maybe, or maybe he is disappointed, or he doesn't have time, whatever the reason. This student doesn't get it, if one person doesn't get it, the whole mankind doesn't get it. That is what is happening in the whole world. You have a certain beautiful thing which is profoundly unknown by the mankind of people. The subjectness of music is there. It has been there for centuries actually. Centuries in India. But those who know, and they are in love. So such a person, he would say, I love music. When he says that, he recalls that deep emotion he always gets. He puts the song, he gets that emotion. He has got a profound value in his life. It becomes precious to him. Life becomes meaningful to him. See, that which is a great value, which gives you a certain pleasure, which gives you a certain meaning, pleasure, which is inherent in a certain subject, and that experiential feeling, the feeling of feeling precious about that particular value, is love. See, another example. This boy grows up with music, let's say, and he meets a girl who is also in love with music and other things. They have a lot in common. And one day they're sitting together, and he looks into her eyes and he sees her soul. He touches her hand and it's electricity. He understands the nature of love and sex. And they make love, and he's completely blown out with the profound value of love. Again, he found a certain value inherent in a certain act, certain thing called man-woman relationships, and he's found a value. That value becomes very precious. He discovers love again. See? Same thing happens when a physics teacher teaches him physics. When a history teacher shows him what? What does a physics teacher, can a physics teacher show? No, not the memorization of things. No, he shows which observations led. Let's say, if I take the example of, let's say the example of atomic structure. The teacher is trying to teach atomic structure, but he's not directly telling what is atomic structure. He's showing which observations, mixing of compounds and elements. He actually mixes them there, shows that there is a definite proportion there. Gives examples of how, if you keep water outside in the outside, it will vanish. He can probe a deep question. How is it that if something is there, it can vanish? See? And suddenly, when you give the answer, the student feels, wow. This is so beautiful. There is an inner, deeper thing at work there. And in that instant, he falls in love. Very badly in love sometimes. He not only understands atomic structure, he starts understanding everything. He gets a feeling that, okay, there's a depth in everything. While understanding atomic structure, he understands that there's a depth in everything. He falls in, yes, love. He says, I love physics. When he says, I love physics, he means that. When he says, I love my girl, he means that. When he says, I love music, he means that. This boy has discovered music, he has discovered love, he has discovered physics, which is going to be his life now. Because everything he wants to learn, and he does learn, he goes on and on falling in love. He's always in bliss. All the time he is in that. And that is a beautiful thing called love. Then one day what happens is he discovers he makes a friend, but he notices that friend has certain problems. He's having a problem, in his psychological problem with respect to his life and his conditioning. There's a lot of problems that friend is facing in his life, but he loves that friend because he sees the friend's soul. And one day the friend commits suicide. This guy is devastated. His love goes away. What does he start loving then now? He goes into a depression. He feels there's no love in the world. He feels so estranged from reality. Even his girl can't help him. No, not because his friend died, but because he wonders then what is life. He becomes scared shit of life, that you can die, that he won't be there one day. Then what's the point he starts feeling? He gets into one kind of peculiar kind of depression. He sits in his room and he's depressed. They try to help him. People are there around him. It's not that bad. He does his works, but behind him is haunting thing going on. What is life? What is life? And one day he goes out into the garden and sees a flower. It's just bloomed, a red flower. It has just bloomed. It looks so beautiful to him. And he suddenly grasps life is finite. Or rather, he doesn't grasp because he knows life is finite. He deeply accepts that there's nothing he can do and that is it. Kind of somewhere deep within his biological nature, he understands that this existence is all there is, that you are a biological entity. It's very, very tough to understand. And he deeply falls in love with, he says, death. But actually it is not death, it is life. He understands life, its lightness, its beauty, its indescribable beauty. And he falls in love with life. He has no words to say except, I love life, I love love. This love becomes more intense. Now when he looks at his girl, he's more in love with her. He finds it more precious, the music. And suddenly the kind of universal love envelops him. He is in love with the universe, with the sky. And one day he looks at the sky and he sees the sky in a new way. Something has happened to his eyes. He sees a pure blue. And he understands, oh my, this is so beautiful. And then he starts understanding artworks. He discovers art. He has already discovered music when he was young. And in this whole act, underlying all this is that love is love. There is a love as such about the whole universe. He understands that every perception is love. That love is a way of life. And his life becomes infinite. Infinite. Everything he loves. He looks at things around and he's in love. Slowly he starts getting used to this love, this emotion. He reaches the age of 30 and he gets used to this emotion of love. He gets used to being in bliss. And getting used to being in bliss becomes his life. And he accepts that fact also. It becomes very natural for him to live like a complete human being. And he's in love with every single thing in the universe. And he knows whatever drops he has experienced are the ocean. The drops are the ocean. And he also grasps that the world is not what he is. He feels a terrible pity for the world. A contempt for the world. A pity for the world. He feels a terrible feeling of I cannot help anybody. And even that he gets used to after a long time. By the time he reaches 35, 40, he's brooded over these issues, deep issues so much that he's got used to that. And then he goes on and on creating music, which he has learned now, and then doing deep study in physics. And the very study gives him that beautiful happiness of being deeply serene, peaceful, confident, blissful, and exploring, knowing that life is infinite, that he'll just touch a few drops, but the drops are the ocean, and one day he just passes away with full acceptance of life's bliss, knowing that the existence is primary, and he is just a speck for a while on earth, the earth remaining, or the universe remaining rather, forever.